The rubbish and solid waste sector characterizes a country. Its management, processing, exploitation, and use define its environmental and social status. But the filth in public spaces did not always drown Venezuelans. When the private company joined the sector, garbage began to be managed more efficiently. The service achieved 78.8% coverage and even won prizes for its environmental programs. Recycling, reuse, and waste reduction were incorporated into the production chain. The service was modernized. Venezuelan engineering was incorporated. There was access to international credits, and it was in line with the regional plans of different organizations. A decade later, the service worked at 90%. But with the arrival of Hugo Chavez to the presidency, things changed in this sector. His management created a financial chaos by freezing the rates of public services. Inflation was added. The municipalities no longer had the capacity to manage the service, and the concession companies stopped their investments. The rubbish and solid waste law, which centralized everything, was enacted. The tariff and commercial attributions remained in the hands of the Ministry of Environment and Renewable Resources, and the companies lost their autonomy, financial capacity, and human resources. 15 years later, there was contamination due to the inadequate disposal of waste in 72.2% of the municipalities. By 2015, the recycling percentage was just 2%, the lowest in the entire region. 83.3% of the municipalities do not have any recycling program, and in 89% of them, there are no recycling companies. Of the 19,000 tons of garbage produced per day in 2010, 90% was not classified. That year, there were already more than 5,000 segregators or garbage separators, an expression of critical poverty. Hazardous waste is not incinerated according to the regulation, and the population is subjected to the strong environmental impact. For the transfer, there are only 2 stations. There are 311 final disposal sites at the national level that operate with little control and in some cases are in the hands of irregular groups. There are also serious collection problems. To date, only 27.8% of municipalities charge for service and invoice on outdated data. There is no institution that leads the sector. There is a huge lack of coordination, duplication of functions, conflicts, and limelight between institutions. In this sector, there are cases of irregular handling and corruption. Supra Caracas, enterprise created to serve Libertador and support other municipalities, but only collects 60% of the garbage that is generated because 80% of their trucks are paralyzed. More than 40% of waste ends up in streets, creeks, and rivers. Supra Miranda. It was presented as a socialist enterprise. It was a service parallel to that offered by the Miranda state government, then in the hands of the opposition. 3 years later, it was reported that their trucks actually belonged to a private company, and they retired due to the lack of payment from the municipalities. Their operating costs were charged to a program of the Ministry of the Environment. This sector is prey to nepotism. Relatives and friends ascend to positions of power. In this sector, the military were there. The Ministry for Eco-Socialism was controlled by military. Until 2018, Colonel Ramon Celestino Velázquez Araguayan was in charge. It is urgent to free the state-owned enterprises from corruption, make them transparent and efficient in order to properly manage the country's solid waste, and thus guarantee the ideal environmental conditions for the health of Venezuelans.